2026 is not the year to buy anything, anywhere. My prediction is this year is going to be the changing of the guard. The darlings of the last 5 years are not going to be the markets for the next 5 years. Your Queenslands, your South Australias, your WAs, they're not going to be the strong performers. So we're going to have a look at what I think the next 5 years are going to look like. Hi, I'm Ben from Compound Property Buyers Agency. At Compound Property, we buy hundreds of properties across the country for our clients a year. Our investment strategy is buying in the right market at the right time to get the maximum equity uplift. So in this video, I'm going to show you 2 examples of when you pick the right suburb, what the performance can look like. I'm then going to show you 5 suburbs between 500 and 800,000 that I think are set to boom in 2026. I'm going to show you what properties you can buy in those markets, real life examples, and I'm going to show you the metrics that give me the confidence that these are the areas to be buying. And I think after this, you'll understand that the darlings of the last 5 years are not the darlings to be focusing on right now. So like I said, if you buy in the right suburb at the right time, you can have an exceptional amount of capital growth in a short period of time. They say that the suburb does 80% of the heavy lifting, so you don't want to get it wrong. So let me show you 2 examples, properties that we bought for clients that have done exceptionally well just from picking the right suburb. So the first example is if we have a look at this property, it's actually in Armidale in WA, which is a suburb south of the Perth CBD. The purchase price that we bought this for was $404,000, and we bought this in September 2023. All right, so about 2.5 years ago. So it was a 3-bed, 1 bath, 1 garage on 700 square meters. It was a pretty basic house, but in good condition, good quality, in good rentable condition. So we paid $404,000 for this property. It's now been valued at $715,000. So the second example, we're going to go over to Queensland now. Now, this is a suburb that we bought a lot of properties in Townsville. So Townsville has been one of the darlings of the last 5 years. This is Burdell. This property, we paid $550,000 for it in March 2024. So we have a look at it. It was a 4-bed, 2-bath, 2-car garage on 625 square meters. And it was, nicely presented. It was probably about 10 years old, good depreciation. From memory, the rental yield at the time was around 6% as well. Townsville yields have compressed significantly. So they were the good old days up there. The property we purchased for in March 2024, $550,000. It's now been revalued, and you can see it on realestate.com, $769,000. So that's $219,000 in just under 2 years. So it's pretty exceptional growth. Just shows if you pick the right suburb, you can far outperform the national average of 6 or 7%. But the critical thing is not all markets run forever. So as good a buys as these were, I wouldn't recommend to buy in these suburbs now. They'll continue growing, but it's not the time to enter. So let's have a look at the 5 suburbs that I think are going to boom in 2026. Okay, so the first suburb is actually in Victoria. Now, people often think, why Victoria? Why would you buy in Victoria? Well, I suggest you watch my video on Victoria and why I think it's a great opportunity. So if we have a look at here, the suburb is called Traralgon. Now, it is part of the Latrobe Valley in Victoria. So as far as where it is, it's 160 kilometers east of Melbourne, about 2 hours drive. It's part of the Latrobe region. Now, the population of the Latrobe region, it's made up of 4 main areas. You've got Traralgon, Moe, Morwell, and Churchill. Combined, it's 73,000 people that live there, expected to grow to 90,000 by 2036. So there's good population growth happening. The median suburb price, and this is why I picked it for this video, is it's $531,000 median price. So it's still possible for a lot of first-time investors to get into Traralgon. The affordability. Now, this is something I talk about a lot. It's a really important metric. Is anything above 35 years to own, depending on the suburb, is starting to become quite expensive. If you watch my worst suburbs for 2026, you'll see some blow out to 60 or even 70 years to own. Traralgon is sitting at 25.73 years to own, so very affordable for local residents. If we have a look at the performance, so the last 10 years growth has been 94%. So that shows me it is a really strong performer. The last 3 years, though, has only been 8.3%. So it shows me it's underperformed in the last 3 years, which is something that we like to see. The Stockholm market is tight, so it's 0.35%. So it shows that there's not much coming up for sale. Days on market is slightly higher at 68, but it's trending down. It's not just about the number of days on market or any metric for that matter, it's the trend, and we can see that it is reducing. So in other words, it's not a hot market. In reality, on the ground, it actually is a pretty hot market, but the data hasn't caught up yet. The vacancy rate, 0.92%, so it is pretty tight, especially for Victoria, which the vacancy rates are typically a little bit higher. The renter to owner ratio is 26%, so only 26% of people rent in that area, which is very strong. Means it's 74% of people own, which means strong owner-occupier appeal. So from a data perspective, it looks like it's looking good. In other words, it's been a great long-term performer. It hasn't done too well at the moment. It's still very affordable for local residents. all the supply and demand metrics are trending in the right direction, this is a suburb that I want to be buying. So now, just to show you a real life example of a property. So this is one that sold the 5th of December, 2025, just end of last year. Let's have a look. It's a 3-bed, 2-bath, 2-car garage on 669 square meters. Brick build, 2-car garage, well maintained, really well maintained, to be honest. A little bit of a renovation. This particular property sold for $516,500. So you can see there still are deals under the median price out there. Now, just at a high level, I'll also talk you through what's happening in Traralgon. So Traralgon is transforming from a coal to a renewable energy place. So as a result, it's got the nation's first offshore wind farm. And as a result too, the agricultural sector is growing. The second thing that's happening in Latrobe is infrastructure spend. Now, this is something that we always look for when buying an area. So there is a $233 million hospital upgrade. Now, hospitals are one of the biggest driving factors that I've seen in capital growth. And it may not seem that big a deal, but there is a Costco coming. So these guys, Costco, Bunnings, you might have heard the Bunnings effect. These guys do their research more than anyone else when they pick a location because of the significant investment in the area. So a Costco coming is usually a good sign. So overall, Traralgon in the Latrobe Valley, to me, it's got some really strong metrics lining up. It's got a really good story around the future. And for me, it is one of the best suburbs to buy in 2026. So let's go to suburb number 2. Now, this suburb is called Alfredton in Ballarat, Victoria. So we're sticking with Victoria, and you will notice a bit of a trend, and that's typically what happens. What I've noticed over my time of investing is when a capital city, for example, like a Brisbane, starts to perform, then naturally the regions in the area start to perform. The Mackays, the Townsville, the Gladstones, they all start to do well as well. So we are seeing in Victoria a lot of strength in data across a number of different cities. So if I have a look here, so Ballarat, Alfredton is part of Ballarat, a major regional centre in Victoria. It's 160 kilometres away from Melbourne. So it's about an hour and a half drive. As far as the population, it's 121,000 people that live in Ballarat. So it's kind of population-wise, the main cities are Geelong, Bendigo and Ballarat in Victoria. So it's a pretty substantial place. The median price point of Alfredton is $641,000. So a little bit dearer or a little bit more than Traralgon, but still affordable. And as far as affordability, 27.7 years to own for local residents. So really affordable as far as the metrics that we look for. Like I said, and at the end of 35 is strong. Some suburbs can blow out to 60, 70 years. So 27.7 years, very affordable. So let's have a look at the metrics of Alfredton. So the last 10 years, Alfredton has grown by 82%. So it does show it has been a solid performer. The last 3 years, however, this would make some investors worry. For me, it's a huge opportunity. It's gone down 3.18%. Now, Ballarat as a whole kind of had a bit of a COVID boom if you look at this data, and then it really dropped off over the last few years, and now it seemed to bottom out late 24, early 25, and it has been on the slight up since then. So it's still early, but we are seeing that the correction has finished and the market is tightening up, and you can see that in the data as well. So the days on market is 35 days, so things are selling relatively quickly. On the ground, to be honest, it's probably quicker than that. We're seeing things go really, really fast. The vacancy rate is 2%. So it's not as tight as some of the other markets, but it's still pretty strong. And like I said, Victoria, the vacancy rates are a little bit higher. The renter to owner ratio, though, really good. So 30% renters to owners. So very strong owner-occupier area. And the number one thing for me, as I mentioned before, is the affordability of the area. 27.7 years to own with a suburb median of $641,000 is very affordable for local residents. It's also just from a suburb perspective, it's very close to the kind of main like CBD of Ballarat as well. It's a very well-positioned suburb. So let's have a look at a property that you can buy in Alfredton. So this is 2 Offaly Street in Alfredton. So this sold in January this year, 2026. So this is a real life example, 4-bed, 2-bath, 2-car garage on 635 square meters. Probably looks to be within 10 years old. And the thing I like about Alfredton, they're quality homes. So this is, proper living, really well maintained, big backyard, good floor plan. This is a great family home for $690,000. And if I zoom out on kind of where it is, you can see Lake Windaree. I'm not sure if anyone's been to Ballarat. It's quite a beautiful place. Lake Windaree is just not too far at all from Alfredton, so it's right kind of in the thick of it. So for $690,000, I think that represents excellent value. Now, as far as the 3 reasons why I think Alfredton and Ballarat as a whole are going to do really, really well in 2026, the economic diversity of the area. So it's a very diverse economy with healthcare, education, and construction. The second reason is infrastructure. There's a lot going on in Ballarat at the moment. We've got the 1.7 billion Roquefort, I hope I'm saying that correctly, wind farm, which is being built at the moment. We've got the 655 million hospital upgrade. So you're starting to see a little bit of a trend. When there is a big hospital upgrade or a new hospital, it normally does mean a strong driver for capital growth. And the reason for that is it brings a lot of kind of workers to be building the hospital at the time, but it also is a lot of high earning jobs. So for example, some hospitals can deliver 3,000 to 4,000 jobs. And as we know, healthcare is really well paid and kind of stable industry, economic resilient as well. Another thing is there's a $23 million library upgrade happening there as well. So they're really investing in a lot of the major infrastructure in the city. And then the third thing is the connectivity to Melbourne. We work with a very well-known property researcher named Terry Wright, and he calls it the exodus to affordable lifestyle. So a lot of people are leaving the bigger cities for a more affordable lifestyle. And Melbourne, obviously, is the major city in Victoria. And it's only an hour and a half, depending on where you leave from, to get to Ballarat. So a lot of people are thinking, well, you can buy a 4-bedroom house for $690,000 in a great area of Ballarat and live the kind of more regional, slower, more scenic lifestyle, and you can still commute to Melbourne in an hour and a half. There's also the V line there as well. So it's very easy to get to Melbourne and it's not too far away at all. So when you couple all those things with the metrics, I'm really liking Alfredton for 2026. All right, so now let's go to suburb number 3, and this one may surprise you. This is a state that you may not have heard much conversation about, but it's a state I'm very excited about for 2026. So we're now heading down south to Tasmania. So the suburb that we're looking at is Midway Point in Tasmania. So it's roughly 22 kilometres from the CBD of Hobart. It's part of Greater Hobart. Now, Hobart is quite an interesting one because it is a capital city. The population of Hobart, though, it's 56,000 in central Hobart, and then 250,000 as the total catchment. So in Greater Hobart. A really interesting fact is that Hobart has been the best performing capital city over the last 20 years. And regional Tasmania has actually been the best performer of any market over the last 20 years. So it's a bit of a quiet achiever, Tasmania, not somewhere that people think about when think about property investing. Now, the suburb median here is 658,000 and the affordability is 34.28. So not as affordable as some of the other areas that we've seen, but we are talking about a capital city here and a high owner-occupier appeal. Let's have a look at a real-life example. So this was sold on the 12th of January 2026. So this is live, right? So this property, it's 3-bed, 1 bath. It says 9-car garage, but I think that might be a mistake or definitely unnecessary. But if we have a look here, it's on 602 square meters. Really nice, kind of well-positioned house. Good floor plan, good family home, and you've got the large shed out the back as well. So very appealing to families. And if we have a look on where it is on Midpoint, it's surrounded by water, quite a beautiful place, and you drive over this bridge to get to Greater Hobart. So yeah, definitely an interesting kind of location. Lots of demand in this area. So this particular property, 635,000, which is sitting under the median price point. So when we talk medians, there still is the opportunity to buy less than them, but that is the median price. The other thing with properties like this is the yields are pretty solid. They're kind of between 4.5 up to kind of early 5. So you can still get a good yield considering you are in a capital city as well. Now, let's jump to the numbers of Midway Point. So the 10-year growth has been 120%. So it's performed very well over the last 10 years, which is always good. It's got a good track record. The 3-year growth, though, however, has not been very good. It's at minus 1.38%, which is what we like to see, remember. Stock on market, very tight, 0.26%. Now, it's not a big area, but there's really not much for sale here. The days on market, 32 days, so things are selling pretty quickly. So there's not much for sale and things are selling pretty quickly when they do come on. The vacancy rate, 1.23%, so pretty tight. Like I said, 3% is a balanced market. Anything below that is becoming quite tight, so 1.23 is good. The renter to owner ratio is excellent, 24% only for renters. So 76% of people own their houses in Midway Point. Very strong owner-occupier appeal, and the affordability is strong, 34.28%. The reason that I think that Midway Point and and Hobart as an area this year are going to perform very well, there's 3 key reasons. The first one is the economic diversity of Tasmania. It's very strong. So you've got things like tourism, education, construction, retail. It's a very economic, diverse area. The second thing, though, and I might be biased because I am an AFL fan, but they are getting the $1 billion AFL stadium. It's just been announced. They're getting the team down there. It's going to go in under construction in the next few years. It's going to be completed in the next few years. So it's going to be a really big win for Hobart, and it's going to really put it on the map. You're going to have plenty of people coming down to watch the footy. It's a really good initiative for the area, and I think it's a big project that's going to provide a lot of jobs and a lot of exciting future for Hobart. You've also got things like the new ferry terminal upgrade. So Hobart not sure if you've been, but it's a beautifully scenic place sitting on the water there. So they've got the new ferry terminals because you can ferry around Hobart just like you can in Sydney. And they've also got the $900 million hospital upgrade. So like I mentioned, any hospital upgrade is always good for an area, and Hobart has a $900 million upgrade happening at the moment. So that is going to drive long-term capital growth. So it may not have been on your radar, but Tasmania is something to look out for 2026. So let's go to suburb number 4 for my 2026 top pick. So we are back to Victoria. We're getting the plane or the ferry back to Victoria, and we are in Ascot in Bendigo. So Bendigo, for anyone that doesn't know, is about 150 kilometers north of Melbourne. It takes about 90 minutes. Ascot, the suburb, part of Greater Bendigo. So the population in Bendigo is 121,000, and that's actually expected to grow to 150,000 by 2036. So that would make it one of the largest regional centres in Victoria. The median price for Ascot is 707,000. So it's not on the cheaper side, but from an affordability perspective, it's 32.68 years to own. So it still is affordable relative to local incomes. Now, I'm going to show you what you can buy in Ascot. This is one that we actually bought for a client last year. So we bought this in June last year. We actually paid $581,000. The real estate's estimated to be worth $631,000 now. So it's gone up about 8.6% in the last 6 months. You can see that it is starting to move. This is a 3-bed, 2-bath, about 10-year-old property, sitting on 564 square meters. So obviously it was a good buy at the time, but even in today's market, 6 months later, $631,000 for this property, sitting well under the median, still affordable, and a really solid, good foundation property. The other thing with Bendigo too, though, like the yields are slightly higher. This property, the yield will be close to 5%, which is pretty good for houses at that price point now. Let's take a look at the data. So the last 10 years, Ascot has performed at 94.85%. Now, you're probably starting to see a bit of a trend. Well, I hope you are, is that most suburbs around Australia actually perform pretty well in the long term. So you might have heard property doubles every 10 years, and it's not 100% true, but over a 10-year period, most areas do really well. The 3-year growth rate for Ascot has been 4.59%. So it has underperformed in the last 3 years. And another trend that you're starting to see is that's something that we look for. But like the example that I just showed you now, the data can be lagging. So the market we are seeing move quite quickly at the moment. The stock on market, which is demonstrating that, is 0.16, so extremely tight, almost as tight as you can get. The days on market is in the high 20s now, so it's saying 28 days on market, so things are selling really quickly when they do come on. The vacancy rate, 1.23%, so it is low, really low actually, so it is really tight, so very comfortable with that. Renter to owner ratio is 16%, one of the lowest I've seen. So basically 84% of people that live in Ascot own their house. Now that's very strong when it comes to owner-occupier appeal, and the affordability is sitting at 32.68 years. So it's not the most affordable suburb in the area, but the higher the price point goes, typically the higher the affordability metric gets naturally. So for this medium price point, it's still really affordable, which is great. As far as why Ascot and Bendigo is one of my picks for 2026, now there's 3 key reasons. The first one is the infrastructure that's happening there. So Bendigo has just had a $1.1 billion hospital redevelopment. You're starting to see a lot of patterns now. That is always a good sign for a major regional centre. It's also very connected to Melbourne through the V line, and there has been some upgrades they've been working on. And it is a major regional centre full of the amenities, right? So it's quite a, once again, biased, but it is quite a beautiful place. Now, as far as the future potential, it's got plenty of it. So the population, as I mentioned, is going to go from 121,000 to 150,000 by 2036. So we're going to see a strong increase in population. It's got major employment drivers. So we've got healthcare, construction, retail, all the job opportunities that you want to see in a strong regional centre. And it's got low unemployment as well, sitting at 4.2% in line with the state average. And the third reason is it's an affordable regional centre with plenty of job opportunities, a close commute to Melbourne, and it is early in its new cycle. Let's go to my 5th and final suburb that I predict will grow in 2026. Now, if you've watched any of my other videos, you'll know I'm a big advocate of Melbourne property in 2026, and this is one of the strongest suburbs in Melbourne. So we're looking at Cranbourne West. So it's effectively 50 kilometres. Now, there's plenty of good Melbourne suburbs. There's some to avoid as well, but Cranbourne West stands out. So essentially, it's 50 kilometres to the CBD. Now, it's part of Greater Melbourne. So there's 5.5 million people that live in Melbourne. It's actually exceeding Sydney now that they've included Melton. And this is in the city of Casey, so the local government area of Casey, which is 365,000 people. The median price point in this area is 771,000. So if you're watching this from Sydney, you're probably thinking, wow, that's cheap. right? We're talking about 4-bedroom houses for $771,000 within the major metropolitan Melbourne market. And that is why Melbourne is severely undervalued. If I have a look here, the affordability is strong, 32.68 years to own, so it's still really affordable. Like I said, a bad suburb can be 50, 60, even 70 years to own. So 32.68 is good. Now, let's have a look at what you can buy in Cranbourne West, right? So this is a property that we bought a client last year. It was a 3-bed, 2-bath, 2-car garage, 487 square meters. Now, we paid $703,000 in October of 2025. So you can see, you can actually buy under the median. It's saying the estimate is $711,000 now, but in reality, it's probably pushing more at maybe $720,000, $730,000. And if we have a look, this is a really well-presented family home, 3-bed, 2-bath, simple, good property, brick build, good shed, good block of land, in a really good pocket of Cranbourne West as well. So we think that presents excellent value. Now, let's have a look at the numbers of Cranbourne West. So the last 10 years, it's performed exceptionally well, 115%. So it's been a really good long-term performer. The last 3 years, though, hasn't been too good. So 9.6%, so better than some of the others, but overall it's underperformed, especially when you think about some of the markets interstate that have done 50, 60, even up towards 100% in that time. The stock on market is super tight. So we're looking at 0.24% here in Cranbourne West. The days on market is really tight. The days on market is getting very low, so it's 24 days. So there is no doubt there's a lot of market pressure in Cranbourne West at the moment. The rent to owner ratio really low, 22%. 78% of people that live in Cranbourne West own their home, so very strong owner-occupier appeal. And the affordability, as I mentioned, is 32.68 years to own. So it's a very affordable area for local residents. So the data's looking excellent in Cranbourne. Now, the 3 reasons why I think it's going to boom. The first one is the infrastructure. So you got the Casey Central Town Centre, which is getting upgraded at the moment. You've got another hospital upgrade. And you've got some multi-billion-dollar land estates. Now, people are quite often worried about new land estates, but in an area like Casey, the population is predicted to grow from 365,000 to 500,000 over the next 20 years. So it's going to grow substantially, and the building approvals are very low. Another thing is when they release new land, it lifts the price of the established land, because say the established block is 550 square meters and then the new block is 300 square meters, and they have a certain rate that they need to get as a developer. So it starts to lift the local land rates. The second is the future potential. So as I mentioned, the population is about to explode, 365,000 all the way to 500,000 over the next 20 years. And this is driven because it's got major employment hub. You've got healthcare, construction, retail driving a lot of the job opportunities around the area. And you've got lower unemployment. So it's sitting at 4.2% as well. So just in line with the state unemployment rate. And the third is owner-occupier appeal. So Cranbourne West, you've got affordable relative to locals. You've got some great schools in Cranbourne. You've got a commute to the city and also a commute down to the beach if you want to go down and visit the Bay in Melbourne. Okay, so we've run through my top 5 picks for 2026. And as you can see, I'm picking 2 states that haven't been spoken about much over the last 5 years. We've got 4 in Victoria and 1 in Tasmania. Now, what that shows me is that 2026 is a changing of the guard. The areas that have performed, the Perth, the Brisbane, the Adelaides, they're not going to be the performers in the next 5 years. So you need to be very careful where you buy, because if you keep chasing some of these markets, you may buy at peak. Now, with the suburbs that I've shown you, Australian real estate, it seems to have changed. Suburbs that are secrets, they don't stay secret for long. So the buying window for a lot of these areas, I predict, is in the next 12 months to get the maximum uplift over the next few years. These are areas that are starting to get on people's radar and the prices are starting to move. So if someone had $100,000, I would recommend jumping into an area like Traralgon. There's also some other great regional Victorian markets, but that's a really good one to start. If someone has a higher deposit, maybe 200,000, you could look to get into one of these great Melbourne areas like Cranbourne West. But there are options for everyone. So my thesis for 2026 is that it's going to be a changing of the guard. You cannot be buying in the areas that everyone's been buying over the last 5 years that have seen exceptional growth. You need to think differently. You need to be a contrarian, and you need to start targeting other areas. And these 5 that I've delivered you, areas that I predict are going to boom. So if you want help building a property portfolio and picking the right areas in 2026, reach out to us at Compound Property Buyers Agency, where we help clients buy high growth, high cash flow properties all across the country, picking the right market at the right time. Link in the below description, and happy investing.